What's going on, guys? I'm pretty stoked about this one, to be honest. It's one of the biggest ones, and I'm going to tell you how to reboot your website. In this video, I'm going to show you a complete walkthrough of how you can completely reboot your site with a lot of different inspirations, design, and all the things that I've been seeing in the marketplace that you can replicate very easily using Cursor and AI. It's all about the prompt engineering. So let's go ahead and dive in. So, as you all know, if you've seen my videos, my good buddy Eric here is a legend. He's a really good dude, very humble, another CrossFitter too. And like me, I'm also a CrossFitter if you haven't already noticed. My wife and I work out every single morning, and Eric and I, it's not too often you come across a CrossFitter because they talk about it. Number two, about clay because we talk about it. So, in this, I made a post about rebooting my website in less than 8 hours. Essentially, I gave it maybe 1 to 2 hours per day, and then next thing I know, I had a finished landing page. Still needs a little bit of work, but it's at least good to go as far as a V1, right? So I made a post, and thanks to you guys were curious, knowing how I did it, and of course, I want to give you all the sauce so you can, be motivated to learn to code and do your own thing. But with that said, I also made another post about the CrossFit Open, which is 3 workouts currently in 2025. Has been that way for a number of years now. But it's essentially all levels of fitness to where you can do a very quick workout. We're talking like 12 minutes, 15 minutes, as long as you warm up, of course, warm up. But it is a challenge, and it's embracing fitness with community and things like that. So I definitely encourage you, if you're struggling to get out and go to the gym or even going to CrossFit, things like that, try it out. You'll be thankful. You'll drink that Kool-Aid before you know it, because Eric and I definitely do that. So I made a post on LinkedIn saying, anybody who beats me, I'll make you a free landing page, right? And so that said, I knew Eric was probably going to get me because we're at equal levels. So he got me by a solid 3 reps. I mean, that's literally like a half a breath if you think about it. But anyway, I wanted to fulfill my promise, but also use it as a case study and to show you guys the capabilities of what you can do. Literally started working on it Monday, put together all the things. You really just gather all the tools that you have at your disposal and that you know about, and be able to just leverage the things that you know, right? And then use AI to fill in the gaps and things like that. So let's dive in. As you can see here, this is Eric's website. He has, and I scraped it, he has made multiple comments about his website needing some work. He just hasn't done it. And, it's a website. I don't speak ill about any websites because a website is better than no website. So this website is, it's been around a while, right? And as you can see here, it's his website. So we'll just leave it at that, Eric. You're just looking out for you, bro. No big deal. But he obviously is one of the best when it comes to the industry and working with clay and all the things. But let's all agree that it could use a little polished work, right? So what I did, and I'm definitely not boasting, but this is a little bit more innovative, a little bit more animated. That's definitely a fact. And I put a little bit of subtle effects here by being able to add UI UX kind of interactions, being able to just put a little bit more flavor, right? So this is very much a V1, but you can see here we have the frame or the banner here, which that kind of thing. And then if I refresh, because it already started, but if I scroll, just little effects. By the way, Clay confirms that he's the biggest user of the platform, and so you gotta boast about it a little bit, right? He's got a chip on his shoulder, but he's humble. Let's not get that twisted here. So other things too, you got subtle effects. I made some animation here compared to the previous graphic that we see where these balls are falling off a cliff, because we all know what happens there. But just to put a little bit of subtle effects to know that you can do a lot with AI coding and things like that. And so I took a lot of his copy here, and then being able to just add a little bit of flavor there. And so I'll explain here in a second, but I want to just give you a high level. This is a placeholder because I wasn't sure if number one, he wanted to use this, and number two, you can update a VSL or something like that. But yeah, pretty standard there. No, standard, it is what it is. But Here's a good old updated shot of him getting the reward. It's nice to be in that club too. So congrats to you, Eric. So with that, let's dive in on how we did this, right? So the first thing you're going to want to do is gather data that you can grab, right? And we all know he has a really good YouTube video. He's also at 199 videos, so round of applause for when he hits that 200 mark. And we all know he has tons of data out there and tons of videos and tons of information. And so there might be some things that he says that we might want to ingest into the website, right? Because there could be some value proposition information or case studies or examples and things like that that we could use. So if you just go so much as be able to just take all he said, it's gonna take a lot of time. I mean, definitely watch his videos, but let's be real, it's gonna take a lot of time in order to write down or type out everything that he said in the videos and take accurate notes, things like that. Although you should watch it and you should definitely learn. So what I did was I used my friend Instant Data Scraper here, and basically, it's gonna be an infinite scroll, so you want to scroll all the way to the bottom. But what you're going to do here is using Instant Data Scraper. I've captured all of the YouTube URLs for this, right? It has the title, has the views, it has when it was published, and then the vidIQ, which is for analytics for YouTube if you're trying to do the YouTube game. So went ahead and scraped his YouTube page. And then I went to good old Clay, which is one of my favorite tools. I think you guys know that. And I essentially ingested all of the CSV, all the links, and started preparing for it, right? And so I knew going into it, I was like, okay, Eric's gonna definitely give me a run for the money, and I started to do my research because I knew I wanted to do this as an example in the first place. So the wonderful thing about Clay is they actually have a transcript, YouTube integration with a transcript. And so in a couple clicks of a button, a couple buttons, I should say, I was able to extract his entire transcript. And this is just one. And then here's another one, and basically I was able to extract all of what he said or what was talked about in the entire video. So this is a lot of data, a lot of good information that I can immediately pull at scale, and that's it, right? And so the next thing is to actually append and aggregate this data into one spot so I can add this to our project in Cursor to be able to feed that into AI for context, right? So one thing that I did, I was running into a little bit of a snag. So we have Google Docs integration, and you have append text to document or create document. And for some reason, when I tried to add an account, it kept saying project block. And even if I try to do this, yep, the app is blocked. So, I fiddled around with it, and it probably has to do with something with project settings, or maybe we got to notify Clay about it. But that is not going to stop me, right? So what I did is I turned over to good old n8n, which I've been definitely living in a lot lately, is just to create a simple workflow where I can pass along this information to a Google Doc and be able to just feed it all and append it into Markdown. And I'll go over what Markdown is here in a little bit and why it's important, but it's a very simple, methodical way to organize, reading, but also give AI models context. And so I went to n8n. So to backtrack here, all you got to do is do an HTTP API call, which is one of my favorite integrations here because it's literally keys to the internet. And so we are doing a post request, and we are sending it to an endpoint, which I've customized here. And then this is the payload or the body in which that I sent it, which has proper JSON. And then, like I talk about in the rest of my videos, we have key and values, right? And so this is going to send all that information row by row all the way through, and it's going to be through a webhook, which n8n is catching this webhook, and it's going to pass it through. And then I'm saying you are a YouTube transcript analyzer. Do not change anything in the transcript, but rather ensure it's properly formatted in Markdown. Also title it with H1 with the title that I has provided, the date posted, and from now. And so the reason I did that is because the date posted is a fixed day of when I did it, and then from now, so that way it could actually be the actual date versus just like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, that kind of thing. So and then in the prompt is, here's the title and here's the transcript. So it's no different than another AI integration, that we use in Clay or anything like that. You give it a good system prompt for who the role is, and then you give the prompt for what you actually want it to do. And then you can see here, it passed it right through. And then I sent it to Google Docs, which I use quite a lot, and n8n for posting and things like that, references and all that kind of stuff. And so the integration was already there. I knew it worked, so I'm like, let's go, right? And so I sent it all the way through, and that went to a Google Doc, which we all know what that looks like, so I won't bore you with that. And then I basically have everything that I could possibly need as far as data is concerned. We have his website, which I showed you earlier. So now we have things that we need to put together. We have context, right? So the next thing is, okay, what sort of motivation or what can I create? Or what does this website need to look like? Well, you have a lot of different things when it comes to web design. I like to go on X. I also like to follow, like Webflow, for example. You see what templates are out there. There's a lot of inspiration everywhere. Even movies and video games are a huge thing to be able to just visualize, animation. And from a UI UX perspective, I went to film school, Los Angeles Film School at that. And so just being able to have the eye and know sense of depth, sense of animation, what looks good, for the person to watch or to view. And you think about it, you go to a website, this is literally a first impression of somebody that goes to your site, and they're trying to understand, context about what you do, things like that. So it's kind of like walking to a storefront and you are being judged in first impression and everything, and you really want to put your best foot forward, right? So you want to have a good VSL, you want to have a good experience when it comes to your website, and knowing that, hey, you're putting your best foot forward, like you want to be the best, right? And so what I did was there's a gentleman out there by the name of Alex Barashkov, super talented guy. I follow him on X. Definitely encourage you to do it too. He is definitely one of the best. In fact, his case study right here, which I talked about, this website was about 90K. And so Huli, he supports a lot of open source, platforms, things like that. And this website is just phenomenal. And then he has case studies and stuff. So this is definitely a good start. They say the best artists steal and make it their own. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, right? But that doesn't mean do a direct copy. It just means that, hey, Leonardo, Da Vinci, all the great artists out there, if it's been done, just like movies, you get inspiration about something and you're like, oh, I want to do that thing, right? That is, in my opinion, the key to always going, putting your spin on things. It's no different than music. I mean, you usually hear some sort of revision of old song and things like that. So, give credit where credit's due. At the same time, try to put some flavor, your flavor on what you want to do, right? And then use AI to enhance that. And so if you look at Huli, if you just do subtle hovering effects, this is just so good, right? So there's a lot of animation here, and this is embedded. But so if we go to, I think, pricing, you can see that it's just more than just words. Like there's just a lot of subtle things that goes here. And so even if I start to scroll over, it's just so good. So anyway, you can get some motivation there, by looking at what's been done and what's possible just in your browser, right? To be able to do some really innovative things, especially with devices that are out now. With iPhones and Androids and all these HDR screens and stuff like that, the pixel brightness can get really bright, and so you can leverage that for a good experience on your phone, and so or any device. And so Here's another case study which he did. So essentially, there are a lot of different animations from another one he did. And so shout out to the Air Force, still serving. Good stuff. And then here's another one. And so you could see that there's just a lot of good, which is why he's definitely very talented, right? And so there is none other than Midjourney, which I use quite often for different Midjourney. There's a lot of image generators out there, but usually I start with Midjourney and then I work from there. There's a lot of them out there, and they're popping up like every single day. So, Flux and all these things. But in this case, I went with Midjourney just because it's there, and plus they have their own website now, which obviously pulls from Discord. But yeah, between that and Discord, Midjourney's been pretty solid. Another thing I want to bring you guys, make sure you're aware of, is Rive or Reeve. It's definitely a really cool app. In my opinion, this kind of puts together Figma-ish and After Effects into one. And so if I were to call it that. But this allows you to do some pretty awesome animations, right inside the app. You don't have to go crazy with After Effects and things like that. And so Adobe After Effects, by the way, for you non-filmmakers. And so basically there are community files, which I'll demonstrate here in a second. But community files, you could just sit here and get inspiration by there's a hover and then there's a click. There's obviously things you could do. And then this one too is another community file, but you could see this very subtle animation here. It's just really cool to put keyframes, a lot of different effects on animating, what you want to animate and just get some, unique designs on that kind of thing. And then there's this button here, which, does another cool effect. And then that's just another one there. So let's go to the real stuff, right? So we're going to dive into Cursor. And if you haven't yet already heard, Cursor, there's VS Code, there's a lot of IDEs, which are basically coding platforms, development environments that you can build things. And when you build things, good things happen, right? Well, bad things happen too, but that means you can make things, right? And so, in fact, I had my son in here the other day, over the weekend, and he's like, Dad, I want to make a video game, or what you got going on today? And I'm like, oh, just playing with AI, because they know I'm talking about AI all the time. And what they can do, especially, being 7 and 10 years old, I said, you really need to be aware of this stuff. It's not only on the news for a reason, right? But it's definitely useful. And so, that said, let's keep this video moving along. Basically, this is the video transcript. And you can see here, date posted. This is all in Markdown, although the slashes are here. But it should be just hash, hashes are for H1, H2, H3. Basically the size of the font, right? And so this is his entire YouTube that I could take snippets and feed it into AI and basically come up with whatever I want. And so yeah, there's that. And then I also did a scrape. And so basically, if you're not already familiar with MCP, so basically there's what you call MCP servers, where these are basically groups. These are tools, but they're kind of groups of tools if you think about it. And so, for example, if I do a SERP, or if I do a web scrape, or if I do any sort of action with AI agents, those are usually singular tools. So think of like a toolbox with just one tool. You got a hammer, you got a wrench, that kind of thing. Those are function calls or tools. The way I like to classify MCP servers is it's a holistic server that can have a lot of different tools. So you can see here GitHub, this MCP server, I could do all these, each one of these are tools, right? We have firecrawl scrape, firecrawl map, firecrawl crawl. We have all these tools that our AI agent can use to scrape and do all sorts of things, right? And so I want you guys to just be aware of MCP servers. I'm actually building one in the works, and so I'll release that here shortly. But it's definitely going to be a good one, and it's a lot of fun to to build. So moving forward, cursor. Cursor is definitely a lot of fun. There are 3 modes that I think you guys should be aware of, and that is agent mode, ask, and then edit. So agent basically is like a junior software developer. They can take all the actions. They can call tools. They can call commands. They could do a number of different things. And so just like any junior person, sometimes they can make mistakes, and then sometimes they can do amazing things. Ask is kind of like your consultant. So you can sit there and ask it all the things. It won't do a single thing. It's just like having a conversation. So when you don't want to execute code, you can do the ask feature, and then you'll be able to just interact, say, hey, what's happening with my code base? Or can you take a look? Or is this the best technology? There's a lot of different things you could do with just the ask. No different than your ChatGPT or Claude chatbot. And then there's edit, which is basically like you're the professional. So it'll edit your code, but it won't take any sort of actions. It won't do tools. So you could be a lot more precise, and you could really do some powerful editing if you want to get super concise and start editing and doing coding on your own. Edit is a good helper in that way, but not quite agentic, if that makes sense. Agent is the one that you're going to have probably the most fun with and break things and make things and all that stuff. And so another thing too that you'll want to do is to turn on YOLO mode. And so we'll go scroll down here. YOLO mode, for those that don't know, it is what it is. It's YOLO, right? And so basically it'll execute tools and things like that automatically. And with that comes great power, which means you got to lock it down a little bit. So I definitely recommend you take a snapshot of this deny list, because these are malicious, and these are commands that you definitely don't want it just to go off on a tangent. You want it to pause, be like, hey, I'm trying to do this command. Can you approve? Right? And so definitely recommend you add these. These are the ones that I've seen around, and I'm familiar with a lot of them. Just to know that, shut down, reboot, and also delete like root files and stuff like that is definitely nothing that you're going to want to play with, because that could be bad, right? And so with that, YOLO mode is definitely a powerhouse when it comes to just being quick. I mean, there's so many times where I'll give it a very precise prompt, and then as it's working, I'll get up, go make myself some lunch, or get up, to client work, or something like that, or be on a sales call. Basically you can multitask while it's working. You sit there and just watch it happen, and you'll be able to do a lot, and just passively. So definitely encourage you to do that. There's a saying, YOLO mode, or vibe coding in YOLO mode, right? So if you're feeling the vibe, just keep it rolling, right? If the AI is doing you a solid, then, just keep working on that. So anyhow, this is basically what I did. So I did a scrape, and then I started to, so this is the scrape. So in YOLO mode, I basically said, I want to create, scrape growthenginex.com. I want you to extract everything from there, and then I want you to create a markdown file of the overview of everything that we have in there, so we can put it on the website. And so I won't bore you, because there's some times where it just works. It's working, I should say, and sometimes it can take some time. But that's what you got to do, right? You just got to let it do its thing, and then just be able to watch and make sure that it's actually executing appropriately. And then I have the transcripts. I have the project overview. The project overview is something that you want to do in terms of tech stack, just being able to know what you're working with, and you always want to just update it as you're discovering new technologies and installing things. So things like React, Tailwind, CSS, any technology that you're not yet familiar with, and you want to remember, definitely document it, because if it's in the project, you're going to be able to refer back to it, and it's going to be able to know more context when you refer to that particular file. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is just obviously all the code, so I won't bore you with that. This is the JavaScript, but essentially I just you screenshot things, you add it. You can also there's also MCP servers called browser tools where it's a Chrome extension, and it will actually take your if you when you enable it, you do what you call a local MCP server where Cursor can actually communicate with your Chrome browser, and it will capture screenshots, it'll capture your console log, it'll know the errors, it'll do all that stuff. So it really does accelerate the process quite a bit. That way, if you are, say, say there's certain padding or say there's an element that isn't quite right, you can go into your browser, bring up inspect tools, select it, and then you could say, replace this versus that thing in the upper right corner is doing this thing. It's not going to know what you're talking about, right? So it really does matter about words that you use in your prompt engineering, and prompt engineering is key for all this stuff. And so, anyway, moving forward, once I got to a good, happy place, I pulled his logo and then I went into Photoshop. Definitely in Photoshop a lot and Premiere and all that fun stuff. And I just polished his logo, to make it look really good when it comes to right here. Because to me, it's nothing against his website, but we just want to polish up the logo a little bit just to make sure it looks legit, polished and professional. So not to say it's not, that's just my style. So anyhow, just did a quick little edit there, removed the background, cleaned it up a bit. This should be realistically in a vector form, not pixelated, but time is of the essence here, and I wanted to get a video pushed out for you guys. So once you're done and happy with the code, basically you'll render it. You'll look at it on your website, or excuse me, on your computer. So a lot of times it'll be the actual URL will be local host with some sort of port like 3000 or 8000, things like that. Just tell Cursor, how do I view my website, right? And it'll execute, usually Node or GitHub, or excuse me, Python, and it'll start a local server, and you'll be able to visualize it. Just refresh, and sometimes you'll do a hot refresh where you'll see it live and happen. So yeah, once you get to that point, you're good and happy with the way it looks. It's time to push that V1, right? And so I have used Netlify, and then another thing that I use is called Vercel or Versal. I'll just Vercel. I'll show you here in a second. But one way that you'll want to do is to get registered for GitHub, and then create yourself a repository. So just name it, what it is, and then just tell Cursor that you want to push this to GitHub, and it'll set it up and have you set all the things in terms of connecting it. But it's pretty simple. You push that to GitHub, and then what you do is you'll see your code on GitHub, right? You can set it public or private, however you want to do it. And then from there, you'll set up Vercel. You'll create a project, and then you connect your GitHub, and then it'll populate, that you want to import it. And then it'll start to deploy it, and then boom, you got yourself a website live on the internet. Basically, all you need to do is just go to your DNS records, wherever you're hosted, whether it's Squarespace, GoDaddy, the list goes on. But you just need to update your DNS records, which you can go through on the Vercel. It'll give you an IP address. It'll give you all sorts of those things. And then you can very simply just do your redirect. So, but yeah, with that, I did the same thing for our website, top of funnel. I still have a little bit of work to do, but the little things like this button, being able to interact, make this sort of like a clay card where, little Easter eggs, and being able to put little things here. Definitely have some more touches to put up right here. Of course, my AI agent card is a little wacky. But a lot of these things, and my funnel is really just 3 blocks. But I won't bore you with this stuff. But my point is very simple stuff. I say simple, subjectively. It's all in the prompt engineering. So if you can familiarize yourself more, and I'll definitely be doing more Cursor content because I love Cursor and n8n and Clay. Those are definitely my 3 tools that I'm in every single day. And building systems, building sites, building and shipping, right? That's the key here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be good enough, because it never will be perfect, and it never will be actually finished, right? And I remind myself too, especially doing film, video production, any sort of thing where there's art. There's never really, and that's what web design is. It's art, and if you can leverage AI such as Cursor in order to do the thing for what is inside your brain, that to me is like unlocking a whole nother level of creativity. And that's what I'm getting at here is you could literally create yourself a website very quickly. Platforms like Webflow was great. Their university is wonderful. But obviously I've been able to grow and create a website, and that's about it. So I'm working on some other projects currently, and I'm pretty stoked about it. I'm definitely making an MCP server, which I'll announce here shortly. But with that said, we're also going to be launching a community. This is the first time I'm announcing it. But we, myself, and a partner of mine, Macklin, he is a wonderful gentleman. We are actually going to be launching AI Powered Junkies. And I made this also very quickly in Cursor. But stay tuned. We are going to be launching a very driven, focused AI community because there's definitely a lot of people that I want to teach, and I love teaching. And same with Macklin. I feel like knowledge should be shared, which is why I'm trying to post as much content as possible. But we want to make this a community where we learn from each other, we build with each other, and I really think that we are in a evolution, especially with AI, where it needs to be available to everybody in a way that is real world stuff. I'm talking business use, personal use, and not just fluff of how's the weather and all these things. But it's just like when the internet and computers, started to come out, where it's all the hype, and then there could be there's a lot of different use cases. Obviously, AI is coming out in almost everything, so there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of value, but there's a lot of noise. And then there's good things, and then there's unfortunately bad things that happen. Just like the virus came out in computers and Y2K bug and all these things. And if I said Y2K and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not trying to date myself here, but it's a real thing. And so AI revolution is definitely exponentially growing. And so this is our way of wanting to connect with you more, and be able to teach more and do a lot more things than just general YouTube. I'm not saying general YouTube stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. So this is a chance for us to connect a lot more. So stay tuned on that. We'll be opening up the gates there soon. We are just trying to make content so you're not coming into an empty house and all that fun stuff. So anyhow, that about wraps it up for this video. I have no idea how long it is, but if you reached it up until this point, thank you so much, and I hope you learned something from this video. Please give it a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.